It's 5 o'clock. I'm bringing the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance and please lead us.
Oh, okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Ted, I'm not a block there. Okay. Second order of business. We have several minutes to approve. The first is our minutes from the June 28th, 2021 work session meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Ted moves. Zach seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Let's have it. Visitor. Oh.
We're relocated, Neil.
Yeah. And the second meeting minutes, the non-public work session meeting minutes. From June 28th.
I make a motion to approve the non-public work session minutes from June 28th.
Zach moves. There's a second.
I'll second.
Ooh,
Oof. All right, you're in the chair.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. I'll jump someplace. Third item, June 28th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from June 28th.
Ted moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion passes. All regular meetings will be at 5 p.m. The select board will meet on the following dates. Our next meeting will be Monday, July 26th, then August 9th, and August 23rd. And if a work session is needed, it will now be included with a regular meeting. Why do we have a tentative work session scheduled for the 30th?
Not a regular meeting. So we do have that date set aside in case we need it for budgets or whatnot.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a tentative work session on Monday, August 30th at 5 p.m. if we need it. And all the above meetings will be at the Plymouth Town Hall. And citizens wishing to be listed on the select board's agenda should notify the town hall before 12 p.m. the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Chairman's comments. I've got a couple actually. One of which is that we haven't yet got a date for us to go forward with discussions on next year's contract with the union. And I believe you offered to call.
I'll get a hold of them.
Yeah, and we'll try to set up a date for that. And it's myself and Zach who will be representing the board and the town with the union and negotiators. And Ted is an alternate. And we also have been copied on a letter that was prepared by Joyce Weston, Suzanne Smith. I believe Bob Gaida had some input as well. And I'll read the letter and you'll get the gist of it. So this one is to the Deputy Adjutant General Warren Perry, New Hampshire Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services. That says, "Dear Deputy Adjutant General Warren Perry, I write you today about an issue that involves the relationship between a small town in Grafton County and the state of New Hampshire. I feel that once the situation is explained, the appropriate action will be clear. Over 50 years ago, the town of Plymouth gave the state a parcel of land, 3.1 acres, for a National Guard facility. This was not a sale of land, it was a gift, and a warrant article from that time showed that the town purchased that that property in order to give it away to the state, thereby removing it from the town tax base. This parcel is 3.1 acres of prime land close to and on one of the gateway roads to our charming town center. For over 50 years, the National Guard has used this property with no compensation to the town. But now they are leaving to move to a larger parcel of Plymouth land. The question is, what is to happen to the current National Guard property when it is vacated? The obvious answer is that, as a gesture of goodwill and appreciation to the town of Plymouth for all the years of free use of this land, the state should return the property to the town free and clear. Plymouth is a small town with an unusually high burden of state properties, which are among the 65% of properties that are tax exempt in Plymouth. It is the host of a state-owned university, which contributes to the economic resilience of the town, but negatively impacts the town's bottom line and overburdens municipal operations. Plymouth also hosts the county courthouse, 9 churches, a regional hospital associated medical facilities, the regional high school, and just about every nonprofit imaginable. The roughly 2,000 property taxpayers, 20% of whose income fall below the poverty line, are struggling under the weight of providing infrastructure for all those non-tax-paying entities. The other issue is the questionable acquisition of the new parcel in West Plymouth, 53.7 acres, which now, as state land, has also been removed from the tax base. Plymouth's master plan designated the area purchased for economic development, but that opportunity is now gone. In addition, the town was not notified of the intended state purchase, in spite of being an abutter, and no thought was given as to how the state acquisition of this property would adversely affect the town. The town of Plymouth, had they been consulted, could have suggested other properties that would have been far more appropriate for this project. With an understanding of these issues, the state should quickly come to the conclusion it is time to do the right thing, to return the 3.1 acre parcel of land to the town, and to communicate with the town about other possible sites for the National Guard. And this is the future National Guard, and they're targeting maybe a 5 to 10 year rollout for their next facility, but we wanted to get this clarified before this went further. And it was signed Joyce Weston, Grafton 8 Plymouth, Representative Suzanne Smith, Grafton 8 Hebron, and Senator Bob Gaida and the Plymouth Selectboard were copied on this letter. And those are the only comments that I have tonight.
So no response to that letter?
Not yet. That just went out
Okay.
last week, I believe. So
Who was it sent to?
it was sent to the Deputy Adjutant General or Assistant. Actually, let me get that. So it also went to NHMA, in the New Hampshire Municipal Association. And there was some information that was found, in the files that that did indicate that the property would be returned. So obviously, it's not a slam dunk, but it seems like it's on our side as far as the amount of information and I guess evidence that we have. Public comments on items listed on tonight's agenda. Seeing none. We have new purchase orders and grants. Chief LaFave, Allcom Technologies.
Good evening.
Good evening. You want to describe the 2 POs that,
Sure, which one do you want to do first?
how about the big one, the keyless entry at PD?
Okay, so what it is we have a keyless entry just for the employee entrance in our evidence room right now. And that obviously helps with accountability. It's a very small system that Alex Hutchins and myself installed there. It's time to upgrade. We would like to do all the offices in the entire building, including our garage door, employee door, front entrance, and everybody's offices. So that gives us, obviously, control. We can use a fob to get into certain areas and whatnot. And we're able to issue fobs to people. That also prevents, like, in the event we do have an employee that we get rid of or whatever, we can just cancel out their fob, and we don't have to go replacing locks like other departments have had to do in the past. The other thing I would ask for is Allcom Technologies is the company that did our large radio project that we just did out of the bond money. That was $350,000. They're a great company. The customer service is absolutely outstanding. It's a company we trust, a company we've used. So therefore, I would start off to ask for a bid waiver request.
So you're using this keyless entry to basically marry with the current system you have in place? Or
The current system we have in place can only do a maximum of 4 doors. It would be replacing that system. And it's old, it's several years old.
Steve, how is this?
Sorry, go ahead.
The funding source, is this from the bond or is this from operational?
Yes, thank you. This is bond money left over from the roof at the PD. Last board meeting, I think you remember me talking about that I would like to use the leftover roof money for these 2 projects. We did actually, I mentioned 3 projects: sealing the driveway, or sealing the parking lot at the PD, which was a very minimal cost, and I've already had that done out of my own budget. So it leaves these 2 projects left, which would be the leftover money from the roof project at the PD. And the PD roof has been sealed itself. We had that resealed for much less money because we found out that we couldn't do the roof in the manner in which I wanted to have it done.
Steve, does this incur an additional annual maintenance cost?
I don't believe it does. I believe that's everything, including the software for the, because the unit itself will just be a computer housed at the PD.
How old's the existing system that this is replacing?
Like I said, the existing system does total 4 doors, and that's probably 8, 9 years old, somewhere around there. I don't know the exact date.
Does it come with a warranty?
Yes, it does. Do you guys have the, do you have the quote in front of you as well as the, I apologize, I don't have the quote.
It's on the back of your purchase order.
Yeah, it should be, all the information should be there.
This is an itemized list, but I
No.
don't see a warranty in the list.
Is that the max, Steve, 20 doors?
That's what we're asking to do is 20 doors. I believe the system could do a lot more than 20 doors if we needed it to.
And how many do you actually need right now? The 20?
20.
Okay.
The 20,
So
yeah.
there's no room if you need another one.
No, I think you can expand off of the system.
But it would cost you more.
Correct, yeah, because we would have to have wiring run, the door latches done and everything else like that. But this one pretty much covers just about every door in the PD.
is that warranty kind of a deal breaker, or is that? Okay.
Well, like I said, Allcom, their customer service is absolutely outstanding. I don't know why it's not on there. I mean, they I'm sure it comes with some kind of a warranty. Let me send a text message. I might be able to get you that information in 2 seconds.
It's actually a little surprising to me that this does not have an annual cost for maintenance.
Right.
I would ask that we clarify that.
Yeah, these days, pretty much all software does.
Right. Are you paying one now, Steve?
No, answer for you.
Steve, is the second one dependent on the first one?
Nope.
So maybe while you're waiting for the answer, we can move on to the second one.
Sure. Again, that's our surveillance system at the PD is old. That's probably, if I had to guess, 10, 12 years old now. It's been replaced several times since I've been there. And we're at the point now where obviously when we have to interview suspects and victims in the PD, that's all recorded, and that recording is used in court, not only for the prosecution, but for the defense as well. And we're finding out that our current system is having like skips in it. It is skipping either video and or audio, so it's getting old. It needs to be replaced. This would be, we're not replacing, we would be replacing the DVR system and adding a couple additional cameras, but using the existing cameras we have now.
So one of the questions I would have with that is the same case, is that have a warranty that goes along with it? And is there an additional annual maintenance cost that gets incurred because of it?
Okay, so I just got the answer on the annual cost. There is none on the keyless entry, and the surveillance system, I would say there's no annual cost on that, and the one we have now, there's no annual cost on it either. And I'm sure there's a warranty on that, and again, I apologize. Had I known those questions in advance, I would have those answers for you.
And could you go over the reason why it's sole source again?
I'm sorry?
The reason why it's sole source, or no bid, or?
Oh yeah, again, this is Allcom Technologies again.
Yeah.
And again, I would have to ask for another bid waiver for that. Again, it's a quality company, the company that did our entire radio system. We've had nothing but good luck with them, and their customer service is absolutely outstanding. I mean, the minor couple of issues we had with some microphones in the dispatch center, they immediately sent somebody up and replaced them.
So Steve, how do you know you're getting a good deal at $38,000?
We've had them done before, not this year currently, but I've had them done before, and even in that range and even higher than that. We've had other companies prior to this, not this year, but in the years past, come out, and it has been as much as that, if not more. I'm reluctant to name the companies, but because I don't want to give anybody a bad name or anything else like that.
Any other questions?
Looking at the video one, I see a line item in the details for the program and install, but then there's no price associated with that line item. Are they doing that labor for no cost?
Would assume, well, whatever's on the quote is what they're going to be charging us for, because they know I only had a certain amount of money for this project, and I didn't give them the total amount, but I said we had to keep it as low as we could, and that's what they came up with.
Oh, I actually see it now. It's up further in the
Installation
quote.
program
Yeah,
training.
it's listed twice on the thing, and I see it. It is here.
The talking about the surveillance system isn't going to require too much labor, but the keyless entry at the PD is very labor intensive. There's a lot of wires that'll have to be run to every single door.
Any other questions? Or is there a motion on either one?
How soon can they do it?
I honestly don't have an answer for you. I was waiting to see if this was gonna pass or not first. And then I was gonna see when they're available. I know they are coming up to the PD sometime this week for that microphone issue we were just discussing. They have a permanent solution. They've already replaced the microphones, but they have a permanent solution for the microphone so it doesn't happen again. And that's at no cost. That was all under warranty, that microphone part.
This second one's off the bond as well, right?
Correct. Yes, they both are. Both projects would be.
The cameras are all okay? They don't need
The
any?
majority of the cameras, yes. We did have one camera over the winter time with the snow coming off the roof. It also ripped it off the side of the building, so that one will have to be replaced with a couple others we wanted to add to the outside of the exterior of the building.
So,
So I got an answer, yes, they are on both. Stand by, I'll send over a snapshot of the paperwork. So I'm getting that via text from Alex Hutchins right now.
So he got an answer?
Yep. He's gonna try and take a snapshot of the warranty paperwork and send it over to me so I can let you guys know what that is. If you wanna move on to Tom until we get the answer, I'm okay with that, just so we don't keep Tom waiting all night.
we're probably just about there though, right? How long does it take Alex to send the picture over?
I don't know.
We can move on to Tom.
Yeah.
Said he was sending it right this minute, but I'm still waiting.
All right. Tom, are you there?
He is on my screen. He's actually got 2 purchase orders. There's one in the back as well. So if we can do them both.
Yep. So,
Tom, we can't hear you.
Tom?
Tom?
He just left, he'll be back. Larry's here.
Do you want to shoot to Larry? Larry? Thank you.
Tom, we're gonna come back to you for a minute. Can you, we can't see, oh,
Can you hear me now?
Here
Oh,
now.
sorry.
sorry, Larry.
-1.
That's right.
Yeah, we can hear you, Tom.
Okay.
And you'd like to entertain a PO with Squam Lake Plumbing and Heating LLC?
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought you were going on to Larry.
We'll take care of you first, I guess.
Okay. So this is for the original oil burner in the original firehouse from 1969 that started to fail last year. We put it in the budget. It was, it's cracked and leaking water. We received multiple quotes, including we looked at different fuel types. And this was by and far the most economical route was the oil burner. We had prices for gas, for instance, of up to 3 times this amount. So I would not recommend that. We want to stick with the oil, which is what we've had. And this company, as I said in my letter, we have done a lot of work with. They do most of our service, and we're happy with them. So look for your support on that PO.
All right. Do you want to admit Joe, by the way?
I'm sorry.
Can you admit?
I did.
All right. So any questions or
Tom, you said you looked into multiple gas or fuel types. Did you also talk to different companies, or was it just Squam Lake?
No, I'm sorry, we had multiple quotes from Dead River and Irving for fuel, for oil and gas.
Gotcha.
And this was the most economical quote that we received. All the way around for oil and gas.
Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the purchase order.
I second.
all right. Any discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none,
I just want to ask, how much was a gas quote?
We had gas quotes of upwards of $52,000 for LP gas burners.
Really?
Yeah,
And that was comparable to what this oil furnace is? Oil burner?
I think the lowest gas quote was 30,000 and change.
Oh.
And
Thank-
from our research, it looks like, oil is the least expensive, at least right now, per BTU, so.
the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
Do you know what the BTUs are on this system?
I don't.
Oh, it might be on the back.
Yeah.
171,000 BTU.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Natural draft.
Is that forced hot water system? Or is that forced air?
It's only boiler and direct water.
It's those Modine heaters.
Oh, okay.
It's primarily for the apparatus bay. There's 4,000 square feet of
blow-
apparatus bay in there.
Blows. Modine heater.
It's air?
Yeah, it just blows.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
And then the two offices up front.
But not the house.
No, the house has its own boiler, which is fairly, looks like it was replaced not too long before we bought it. Before we bought the house.
Yeah. The water in the system must have been pretty good if it lasted 50 years.
Yeah, that was 1969.
I'm really surprised.
Gives me hope, Tom. My boiler's 1979. so.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
That's another one.
Okay, I'm going to pass that one down now. All right, Tom, Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid.
Yes, so this purchase order is for our annual contract for dispatch services with Lakes Region. We're very happy with their services. It's a well-organized organization, well-run organization. And in fact, the fire chiefs all serve on the board of directors, so we have an opportunity to view and revise and vote on the budget annually. Some of the other services that they provide are SCBA fit testing, radio and pager programming. They'll assist with command and control at major incidents. Their chief and deputy will actually respond to major incidents. They have a communications trailer that they can bring that helps with interoperability. And they also run training programs around the district.
Mr. Ann?
Is it Bill's?
I already signed that. Yeah, I'm top. Oh, it goes to Ann. Sorry.
And
Sorry,
that's
Tom.
this is for calendar year 2021. That's how they operate. And they've always allowed us to make the payment mid-year.
And you indicated it went up 4.5% since 2020, I guess, but
When's the last time we had an increase?
Last year, they had an increase because they upgraded the communication system to create some redundancy in the system to the tune of about $800,000. And we went up a similar amount last year. This increase is primarily personnel costs, wages and insurance. And also, Plymouth's valuation went up, and that's part of the formula that they use. So it's population and valuation makes up 90% of that formula, and then 10% are their fixed costs. So when our valuation goes up, the cost of this service goes up.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Was there a motion made? No. Is there
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase order for Lakes Region Fire Communication.
Zach moves, is there a second?
Second.
Neil seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thanks, Tom. Okey-doke. So I guess let's go back to Steve.
Oh, he's on the phone.
Okay, got your answers for you. Camera system's 5 years, and the recorders are 3 years
Okay.
on the camera system.
Yep.
The cameras themselves are 5 years, recorders are 3 years.
What about the locks?
Yeah, I guess keyless entry as well. Is that,
Sorry, still working on it. He's actually on the phone with the vendor, and I'm on the phone with him. And the vendor's sifting through the paperwork right now. Okay, and the control, the keyless entry is 5 years as well.
okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna hang up with you now. Bye. Sorry about that.
What could wear out on this?
The other thing too, as you know, that Alex pointed out, and I totally forgot to mention to you guys, is the reason we went with Allcom is all this is gonna get integrated with our communication system, so it can all be controlled from the dispatch center. So the dispatchers will have control of doors in case somebody needs to get in somewhere, along with the surveillance system, which dispatch already has access and control there as well.
Okay, that kind of clears some
In the
things.
case of the door system, those batteries, you're not going to get more than 5 years out of those batteries.
I don't think he can hear you, Zach.
Yeah, I heard him. I was wondering what could go wrong with the system, and
Well, the system is more than just the locks. There's something to control them.
yeah,
So that's a place where you could have a failure.
thanks.
So Steve, the question was, what can go wrong with the system?
Yeah, this is a system they've used many times in other facilities and commercial applications, and they have really good luck with it. So there's not a heck of a lot. The only thing that could go wrong with it is probably the computer itself aging out, but we are supplying the computer for that. So, and they're supplying the software. You know, in a computer nowadays, to control the doors, it's not like you need like any of the Microsoft or anything else like that. So it's just a basic computer, and that's relatively inexpensive.
So Steve, mentioning the computer, is there somebody responsible for making sure that that computer remains patched up to date and current with security patches?
Correct, that's right. We have an IT vendor already.
So they're going to be taking care of the patching.
Correct.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions, or is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the,
What bid waiver first
Oh,
bid waiver?
on both, actually, because they're both over 10,000.
I know.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the bid waiver for the keyless entry system.
Okay, Ted moves, is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? I know if this was the state, it would be kind of difficult to get something like that waived. but-
Oh, yeah.
I think where this company's involved with other systems that are integrating, it's probably a really good idea. Plus, you did get other prices from other vendors, right?
Yes, not recently though, just so I'm clear on that.
So Steve, my ask in the future would be that the bid waiver would accompany the paperwork.
There's no true waiver to be signed. It is a vote at the board
it's
selectmen's
a
meeting,
vote.
and we just record it in the minutes for the auditor.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion?
I mean, that being said, in the same way that we get sort of these written things from the fire chief that say, this is what I'm asking for, you know, I think it would be nice in those cases to have kind of an
Want
accompanying.
to see the other quotes?
You know, no, not necessarily the other quotes, but a request from the chief that says, I'm asking for a bid waiver.
Yeah.
This is the reason why I think it makes sense.
Okay,
It doesn't have to be a big complicated thing, but if we,
okay.
you know, if we had that, it would just make it easier for us, I think.
Okay, noted.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the bid waiver, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Now we have to make a motion for the actual purchase. So now I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the keyless entry system.
$38,292.57. So Ted moves, is there a second?
Second?
Zach seconds. Any discussion? All right, I think we clarified our questions. So therefore, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no? No. I mean, no no's. Ayes have it, it's approved. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. And is there a motion for the recording and surveillance system?
You need the bid waiver on this one too?
Yep.
Oh, it wasn't a blanket bid waiver, I guess.
We
no.
need
Nope,
the waiver.
specific.
Yep. Is there a motion for a bid waiver on this item?
I'll make a motion for a bid waiver on the recording and surveillance system for the sum of $10,561.67.
Okay, Ted moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Neil seconds. Any discussion?
I just want to say that I believe that this is unusual, and it's justified by the fact that this company is integrated in other systems at the police department. And he has gotten quotes in the past which have been indicative that this is a fair bid.
Thanks, Neil. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of bid waiver say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. All right.
Now, the actual purchase. I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase for the recording and surveillance system for the sum of $10,561.67.
All right. Ted moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Neil seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Larry. Sorry, but you're just that close to.
Oh, I didn't
No, that's
realize
fine.
you had the foot thing.
I'm gonna move that. Oh, you can come up here, just make sure that you're talking into the mic so they can hear you when they do the minutes.
Okay.
Evening.
How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Okay. My purchase order is to replace a couple pieces of equipment, playground equipment over at Fox Pond Park. We have a tube slide that needs to be replaced, and then there is a crawl tube missing from the component also on the slide. This is a company that installed the playground in the early 2000s. It's the same company that put the playground in at the Plymouth Elementary School, so I too will need a waiver. I did not put anything out to bid for this project because it's the same company that I've used since I've basically been here. So, and I'm not sure other equipment from other companies would fit our standard equipment that we have there right now. So, it's going to be paid for out of the bond money that was established 2 years ago at the March meeting. And I do have money left over to pay. It's a little bit higher than I anticipated when I first put the list together. I anticipated about $7,500 for the project, but things have increased, shipping and just cost of the replacing the equipment, so.
Okay. Yeah, you came so close to getting out of the bid waiver
I
too.
know.
It did, you know, if it wasn't for the installation fee, but I feel that it's a big project, and it's gonna take them, they're gonna send a three-man crew to do it, and I just felt that because of liability and everything of adding equipment to something already established, it would be better to have the company do it themselves for safety reasons, so. And I believe there is, and I will have to double check this, I know the first time they installed the playground, there was a 10-year warranty on it. And obviously, we are way past that right now, but I believe this piece of equipment is a 7-year warranty, but I would have to follow up on that, so. So I'm asking basically for 2 requests, one for the bid waiver and one for the purchase.
Did the current slide fail? What?
It has
going
a
on?
crack in it. It's a 3-section large tube slide, and it cracked in the middle, and unfortunately, they don't make that style of a slide anymore, and they don't make individual sections. So we have to replace the whole thing, so. And the other component that we're replacing, that also cracked. It's a crawl-in space area with a see-through globe that the kids can climb into, so, and the globe cracked on that, so. But it's a company that I feel very comfortable with anytime, and they do our yearly inspections, so.
I'm assuming none of these are in use right now? They
That is correct.
blocked off,
Yeah.
or,
How long is
Well,
that?
the existing, tube slide, we actually took that off. And they did put a little bit of epoxy on the slide, but it's not in real danger, but we are gonna remove it, yes, so that there isn't any liability on that.
How long has that playground been there?
Early 2000, I believe. You know, I don't know the exact, I'm thinking like 2004,
Okay.
somewhere around in there when it was built, so. So we've had a lot of luck with that equipment, so, and like I said, unfortunately, the warranties are all gone on it, so.
Is it vandalism or just age?
No, it's
or-
just wear and tear,
Yeah.
you know.
So do they have a tube slide now that doesn't have static electricity? So if you have long hair, it doesn't...
I don't know. I don't have to worry about that.
What fun would that be?
All right.
Have you ever had any injuries on it?
No. I mean, I'm sure there are minor bumps and bruises on any playground, you know, but as far as I'm aware of,
Yeah.
no, thank God, no fractures or anything,
So it's engineered by this
so.
company.
That is correct.
And they're providing a warranty on it.
That is correct. Yeah, they're out of Lewisburg.
Oh, Lewisburg?
Well, they get their equipment from Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, but they're out of Massachusetts, yes.
It was an interesting story on the Hampshire Chronicle the other night. You probably didn't see it, but it was, I think it's Ron King from Concord. And he and his son have a business. They do natural playgrounds. And it was very interesting. And in fact, I actually met the guy and his wife, and he's been doing it for a long time, and it's finally getting some notoriety. So
what's a natural playground?
it's got basically like rock steps, climbing walls with, on real rocks, 1,400 feet elevation. I'm only giving, so it's, just natural materials and not your typical red plastic, and it's pretty neat though.
No tractor tires.
That's too bad. I want to get rid of my tractor tires too. Anyway, something to think about. But. So, in that case, is there a request for, is there a motion to have a no bid on this one? Or,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we waive the bid process on this, based on it being the company that originally installed it.
all right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ted seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Now regarding the actual PO. Is there a bid? Not a bid. Is there a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the PO for $10,438.84 to Utiliplay Playground Incorporated.
Okay. Zach moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Ted seconds. Any discussion?
Well, I still think that this is an exception to the rule. And as a general rule, we should have more bids.
Yeah, I'd like to see those in the future.
Yeah.
We've had 3 things come through tonight. I think it's a bad practice to get in the habit of.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay. New and other business. Robert Hayden, President of the President and Chief Technical Officer, easy for me to say, of Standard Power.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
So you should have in front of you his handout. It's also going to be on the screen there for others to see.
I like your emblem. So thanks for inviting me in tonight. As you obviously know, my name is Bob Hayden from Standard Power. Thank you to Ann for talking with me for a while. I'd ask you how long you want me to speak about this, because I can speak about energy stuff for 5 minutes or 5 hours. It's up to you. But anywhere in between is fine too. So what do you think?
10, 15?
Okay, so we're going to breeze through this.
Go all in for the 5 hours.
Okay, all right, we're good, man. That'll be wicked cool. That would be the true geek out session. So Standard Power has been in the energy business primarily with schools and towns here in New Hampshire for the last 10 years. We've developed the largest aggregation of hydro facilities in New Hampshire that helps reduce the cost of electricity for schools and towns, primarily in the Eversource territory. The co-op area, although it might support a program like that, doesn't have as many of the hydros available. We're currently teamed up with Good Energy on a community power program. And has anybody heard about community power in New Hampshire?
Yeah,
You have?
on NPR.
On NPR. Yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. So they neglected to talk about Standard Power.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I know. I was quite unhappy about that. Standard Power has delivered the first community power program to the now Energy Department, which used to be our PUC. And that's the expected path for a program to receive approval. So the City of Keene actually has the first completed plan at the PUC that we delivered 6 weeks ago. So community power is a mechanism for a community to buy electricity for all of the folks in town. All of the folks in town who aren't using some other third-party supply for their electricity. And Andrew, if we can go to the next slide. What is community power? Well, it's really just reducing the supply cost for everybody who doesn't buy it somewhere else other than their utility. So right now, folks in co-op can buy electricity, or businesses, the schools, the towns, typically, and can buy their power from third-party suppliers. Large companies that provide electricity, just the electricity portion, at a reduced rate. The delivery and the bill still would come from co-op. All that would change is on the co-op bill where it says supplier cost, there'd be a lower cost, in most cases, and we'll get to a couple of those variables. Next slide, Andrew. What this does is it gives the community the opportunity to get a more competitive rate, have local control over the supply of their electricity, which might mean they choose to make it a little greener, or a lot greener in some cases. Keene has an option that's 100%. They're also a community that has a goal of 100% renewable energy within 10 years. So that's a big goal, and we're going to help them along that path. It allows to buy longer-term contracts than currently co-op uses, so that helps with price stability. And I'm not sure, if you've heard about this, but there are sometimes predatory companies that sell electricity contracts individually to residents at great rates, really good rates. And then 6 months later, they go to a really bad rate. So this kind of thing protects folks from that kind of predatory action. It gives the community the opportunity to use more renewable energy. My company really believes a lot in renewable energy. We consult on solar all the time for schools, towns, businesses, and we have that largest aggregation of hydropower here in New Hampshire. We help these hydroelectric facilities stay in business and find the best opportunities to create the best revenue stream. And some communities will have all kinds of cool programs with this on energy efficiency, on additional mechanisms to implement solar residentially. Those can all be part of a plan. Also, sometimes it just engages more of the community in what their energy is comprised of. Some people care a little bit, some people care a lot, most people don't care at all. But for those who do care, this is a great mechanism to have some control over that. Andrew? Thank you, sir. You're right on. What we also make sure of is that the power itself comes from very large, reputable companies that have been either supplying the power to entities like the Electric Co-op, Eversource, Unitil, here in New Hampshire and across the country, so that there's no problem with any of the service for that supply. Some of the features, again, with a program is that it allows for education and outreach to the community, helps the community be more involved in their energy choices. Next. Like I said, Standard Power has done a bunch of stuff with renewable energy. We work with 65 schools and towns here. Most of them enjoy benefits from our hydropower aggregation. Good Energy, our partner. We selected a partner to work with on this because it's a massive program on the consultant side. We can do as much of this work for a community as they want, or the community's energy committee can be as involved as they want. At some point, though, it does take the governing body to sign off on a program. Good Energy has implemented these programs across the country, 40 in Massachusetts, over 100 across the country. The state of Rhode Island is kind of on the same timeline as New Hampshire is on doing this, and they have 5 communities in Rhode Island, including Providence, that are about ready to launch their programs also, just like Keene here in New Hampshire, or Lebanon that you might have heard about yesterday morning on NPR. And in these programs, they've saved over $80 million for residents who've had lower energy costs, while adding more green power to all of those programs. Next. Okay. So you saw a little bit about the Community Power Coalition and some of the towns they're working with. So they're using a 40-page joint powers agreement. It's a rather complex document. It establishes another agency in between the power companies and the end users. We're going kind of the simple route. We're doing a 2-page MOU that says we'll work with you at no charge and no risk and develop your plan, get it ready for implementation, and if you decide to go with it at that time, which is probably 8 or 9 months from now minimum, you'd sign some sort of services contract at that time for us to buy the power. What we do develop and do is all of the work in between, which is community outreach, helping you establish a community power committee of folks from town, probably one of you too. And then we will do information sessions either in public, online, or at clubs and community organizations here in town to help you get going and to get the word out that we're doing all this. So we feel that no risk, no true commitment MOU is the right way to go on this. We've had a couple of communities after Keene who have joined us on that, so maybe in the next time NPR talks about it, they'll talk about that. We're working on that right now. We were working on it today. We felt pretty well, kind of shorted on that. We were in the Municipal Association magazine this past edition, so we were there with the information on Keene. Andrew?
let's see. So I kind of hit this no cost, no risk part. In the MOU, we take the burden of all of the work that gets done, knowing that most communities, once they do the work, will be interested in doing the actual program. We identify what the features are that your community might want, if they really do want greener energy, or if they just want cheaper power, a lower bill, or if they want some combination thereof, and we develop that plan.
So those are two distinct.
Well, it looks like right now in New Hampshire that there'll be an option that's both.
Okay.
So if you think about the power you buy everywhere across New England, it's from the New England ISO. And there's a thing called the Renewable Portfolio Standard. So in every state, there's some amount of renewable power that has to be part of what you buy every day through co-op, through Eversource, through Unitil. That amount in New Hampshire is about 20%. So that represents hydro, solar, and biomass, and wind. I just saw wind coming into town. I hadn't seen that before. So we think that we can add 10% and still save half a cent on the supply cost. So that would allow people to choose to be 10% greener and still save money. Or if you do it by the relative amount, they'd be 50% greener than they already are, which sounds better from a sales perspective. That doesn't really matter. What matters is that people are moving in a more renewable direction. In Keene, they have that option. They have an option with nothing extra, which is the low-cost option, the lowest cost. This is no extra purchase. Then they also have more expensive options that have an additional 50% renewable power and an additional 100% renewable power. And they're targeting local projects, like their solar on their own wastewater treatment plant, where they'll buy the renewable energy credits from that program. In addition, they have a local hydro facility that's dedicated its power and renewable energy credits to this program. So those are because we're well integrated here in New Hampshire in all energy matters, we're kind of able to communicate with folks who have those opportunities that kind of want to direct them to this community power program, because it's a program that benefits only New Hampshire. So when you do other things on the energy market, it supports all of the New England ISO, all the states in New England. In a program like this, you can focus on your own community, your own county, your own state. And that's what I love about it. Standard Power and Good Energy. We work with little towns, we work with big towns. This is great for everybody. Like I said, some communities have these 100% goals. Some don't and want to integrate a little bit of extra green power. Some want just the lowest cost. But the bottom line is that the team of Standard Power and Good Energy have done this across the country in various ways. Standard Power's made buying groups and aggregations of renewable power and buying groups for schools and towns. Good Energy has implemented hundreds of these programs together. So our combined experience in these matters allows us to guarantee success. It allows us to know the cost to us and not pass any of the development costs on to you, and to know that we'll have a good percentage of communities who will really go with it once we've developed a program for them. Next. What do you have to do to get started? Well, if you want to start with Standard Power, we do a 2-page MOU. It says we'll do everything for you at no cost, no risk, and that at some time down the road, if you decide to implement, we'll ask for a contract. And then there has to be, by law, a community power committee. And we suggest that there be a minimum of one person from the community leadership, a couple people from business in town, a couple people from just who live here in town and care. Currently, we're developing these committees in several other communities who've either had a community power committee or an energy committee. And a lot of things have fallen apart in the last 13 months, as you might know, because of that COVID stuff. I'm glad to be here in person, though. I like doing business this much better than zooming in. Zooming in might be more convenient, but it's nice to be here. Nice to be in this beautiful room, too. So those two pieces can flip-flop either way, you know, but some communities already have that committee. Some don't. So either way, we'll work with you. Over in Claremont, we're trying to pull together a team right now to be that committee. Then we reach out to the community to get a little bit of community input and see what the temperature is of the town on what they want to do. We secure local approval at town meeting. We expect that here, as a select board, something like this would go to town meeting in, what month are you?
March.
March, okay. We have a range of communities from March to May. Then we notify the Public Utilities Commission to get your plan actually approved by them. And then all of those things happen under the MOU. So all approvals can be done at that point, and you get a final decision of what you want to do when we get pricing on the plan. If you don't like the pricing, you can tell us to wait, or you can tell us to go away. Either way is fine. We continue to do community outreach. We help you have a link to the information about your community and what you've done, how much carbon you've avoided, how much green energy you've implemented, whether you've supported local projects, things like that can all be there. And then, when we've done these two steps, we can launch the program. Going out into the future, we will continue to update the program, help you reach your goals, and encourage people to be greener, because that's who we are. We will always encourage people to be greener. Next. Okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, I participated a lot in the legislative session this year. I do every year because, well, we have to. I care about green stuff, so I have to participate. And there's two bills that made it through this year regarding energy. That's it. That's all there is. One is SB 91, which is kind of a pile of bills that were glommed together in the Senate. And it has a couple of pieces that help both hydropower and a piece that might make it easier for battery storage. Some of these programs we look at really would love to have batteries behind them because it could help increase the volume of renewable energy while maintaining a low cost. We don't have those features in our tariffs, our utility tariffs yet. Co-op tends to be pretty open and interested in doing experiments in that way, so we may end up working with them under experimental programs with battery, with other time of use mechanisms to look at the best ways to implement this. So those things there's a few enabling pieces in this SB 91. HB 315 was kind of like magic in our legislature this year because our legislature has been very polar. There's been Republicans and Democrats, and they've voted across party lines for a couple years now. Kind of looked like the federal government. It was kind of ugly to me. People weren't talking. And we got people to talk about HB 315 on both sides of the legislature, from the developers like Standard Power and Good Energy and the Community Power Coalition, the supply companies, Constellation is one of them, the utilities, Unitil, Liberty, Co-op, and Eversource. And in the end, we started with a very partisan bill, and everybody agreed after a couple of work sessions that it was the right way to do it. It's kind of sailed through unanimously. Governor Sununu said a couple of times that if it made it to his desk, he'd sign it. So that's where we are with that. And in the last one here, there was some language added in at the last moment that Governor Sununu also said he would sign that increases the ability for a renewable project to group net meter up to 5 megawatts. So there'll be a mechanism to monetize the true value of renewable energy on larger projects. Right now, it's only a megawatt. So 5 megawatts gets you to about 6 million kilowatt hours a year. 1 megawatt for solar is 1.2 million. So it allows for bigger projects. Next, that might be it. Questions? How many minutes, guys? Am I in the right window?
I don't know.
I think I'm in the right, I think I'm
I have no
at
idea.
13 minutes.
So I think you're probably aware that we don't have an active energy commission.
That's why I pointed out the fact that we help develop them.
And we do have like an energy group that's kind of like forming, I guess. It's rather informal now. And I know includes, well, Grace Garvey is one of the leaders of that. And I know there's some other town fathers that are members of
Yep.
of this group. That might be the best, my thought is that might be the best group to approach first.
Would you facilitate that?
Sure.
All right. Here's my card. Here's a few if you want them. I would be happy to talk to anybody. This is like really how we started in Claremont.
Right.
Anybody else?
Sure.
I really appreciate it.
Want one?
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions?
We'll take a couple.
We actually have a question from our audience.
Yes,
Thanks, Paul.
what's your approach to damage tolerance and durability of your system for storms and/or CMEs and/or cyber various events?
So this program, Community Power, depends on the utilities to maintain all of the systems. We only supply the power. So the wires, the transmission systems, the distribution systems, the line clearing, the line repair after storms is still the responsibility of your utility. And Electric Co-op has done a great job of that. For companies in the co-op territory now, there's already a program that allows companies and school districts to buy power from other entities besides co-op. So this already exists on a big level for big users, and it gives individuals now the opportunity to get together and make a purchase and lower their rate or drive their power in the direction they want.
I just wondered what, as a business as you are, in looking at like the storm event that happened in Texas, that,
That's an even better question.
that's part of the redundancy.
Just this one?
The damage tolerance and durability of alternative energy systems that you may be involved in.
That's a great question too, because right now we expect to use the third-party suppliers, the national level companies, to integrate these power programs like they do already. In California and Texas, they were using a percentage of a supplier and doing things contractually on their own, which had greater risk. And in an event like happened in Texas, where the temperatures dropped way below normal and it took more power, the individual contracts they had under their joint powers agreement for their what was really the Texas Energy Company didn't accommodate that risk. And California has seen the same thing happen now too, with some of these joint powers agreement, where they try to make their own company. They add another level of bureaucracy into a program like this, or in the case of Texas, the whole state. And that's where risk comes in. That's why we use the third-party suppliers, to avoid any risk whatsoever.
The other question is the outreach program for citizens. The biggest issue we're having is generation and providing these volume of electricity to a house or a building. And then is the technology of the use of that electricity, where most homes are single panel installation but have no load banking within the structure that would provide a means of lowering the volume of electricity required to operate that house based on the existing system versus the technology that's available to load bank and sequence the use of that electricity.
So that's a big concept, and a program, a community power program that identifies something like that as what the community really needs and wants, can make an effort to do something about that. So like in the Keene program, we don't know what programs we are really going to start with, and their program hasn't even launched, but they have 10 grand in it already that will go towards possibly just energy efficiency. If the battery power backups become better enabled by legislature and law, then monetizing the attributes of that is easier and makes more sense to make that available to residences. So a lot of work has to still be done legislatively on the tariffs that the utilities perform under, and in co-op's case, how they perform. So they look at those things as making them true options as opposed to just experiments. Right now, they're across New Hampshire, they're largely just experiments. It's a great question, but we want to end up that way.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you explaining what you could do for our town, and we'll basically get you in touch with Grace Garvey and
Grace Garvey?
Grace.
Grace.
Yep.
Grace.
All righty, I'll look forward to hearing from her, and if I don't after a while, I'll bug Ann.
Okay.
Very good.
Ann, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And thank you for all of your time, too. I appreciate it. And anybody who does have questions later are welcome to call.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Good night, folks.
Good
Good night.
Next, we have Lisa Donor about
I'm the president of my company.
a mere proposal that she's pursuing.
I don't know.
Is she on?
I can't, I lost connection, so I don't know.
Oh. Oh. She's not on?
Sign.
Okay.
So maybe we'll just go to June and see if she shows up. Go to June.
Yeah.
Now you're committed.
She shows
Actually,
up.
June's gonna.
Keep going and she might log in.
Okay. So June Hammond Rowan, would you care to provide us an update on the EDA resolution for stormwater management?
Hello.
Hey.
So you have, I think in your packets, I hope in front of you, a resolution regarding the authority for signing documents related to our $2.7 million EDA grant for the $3.37 million stormwater infrastructure project on Main Street. So the grant was awarded in April. We got the official documents. We've had to do a variety of different steps to meet their administrative requirements. And one of the things we felt was important that you had passed this resolution back, I think in February or March. I don't have the exact date, February 22nd. So we're adding in another paragraph towards the end that just also creates a backup plan for us to allow Finance Director Ann Hebert to sign things in the absence of, if the town manager is not available for temporarily not available, we said. So we're just asking that it will help us greatly in terms of getting through, getting things signed and meeting EDA deadlines as they come up.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion or questions, or it's pretty straightforward? So.
Do we need a motion? Or do we just?
Yeah, let's do a motion and resolve it that way. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, Neil moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? Any further discussion?
Just for clarity, what we're moving is the addition of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth paragraph to this overall document.
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. And now we have a Riverside Landing update.
I was asked to come to talk about the status of the conservation easements for Riverside Landing. So I actually wrote up a couple pages of the timeline of different things that have happened, so I'll try to go through this fairly quickly, but just as a quick review, and back in December, the State Department of Environmental Services issued a wetlands permit for the next phase of development at Riverside Landing. The planning board reviewed and gave conditional approval in March for the site plan review application that was around the next phase of filling a wetland area and the next sort of creating a site for development. It's not actually for buildings yet, but it's to move the fill and move materials around. So that was in March. The planning board granted conditional approval with quite a few conditions, one being that prior to start of construction, conservation easements on the two neighboring parcels that were part of the mitigation plan submitted for the wetlands permit, that those easements on those two parcels had to be put into place. And also, we are asking that the town attorney review those conservation easements once they're more finalized, and that will be at the applicant's expense. So then in April, I received draft conservation easements from Carol Stackpole, who is the attorney for Riverside Landing. I spent a little bit of time reviewing those, and later in April, I did write to Planning Board Chair, Conservation Commission Chair, my comments about the easements and asked for any of their suggestions specifically on those documents. Later in April, I did receive an email back from the Conservation Commission Chair with some questions or voicing some concerns about the process, but not any specific comments about the easements. On April 28th, I had a meeting with Lori Summer from DES. We went over the easement language. We talked about the process. One of the things that I want to make clear is that these conservation easements on the two neighboring parcels around the Riverside Landing site, I don't have all the acreage. I guess one's 24.65 acres and one's 31 acres. But the wetlands permit's pretty specific that the purpose of these easements and this, as she explained it, is that it's for wetlands mitigation. There's lots of different reasons why you do conservation easements. Sometimes recreation can be one, but in this case, DES is tying this to basically the offsetting the impacts and damage to the wetlands that is going to be as a result of the filling of this development site by protecting wetlands permanently in the neighborhood on either side of it. So this still needs to get reviewed by the Army Corps of Engineers because it's a major wetlands impact. But they are the text that they use for the actual easement is very restrictive in terms of what can happen on those sites. So the idea is that Riverside Landing would continue to own the sites and that the town would hold conservation easements. So we have a responsibility to monitor the uses of that land and make sure that anything that's permitted is happening and anything that's not permitted is not happening, basically, is a short way to look at it. But they're not necessarily designed for recreational purposes because, again, the intent of the conservation easements tied to the wetlands permit is to create permanent protection for habitat and wetland type of things. So I did, and the Attorney General's office, I believe, also will have to review these when it gets to that point. There have been some timelines set in the wetlands permit that have been missed, and there's some factors for that. So I've had some continuing conversations with Riverside Landing representatives about that. But on May 18th, I attended a Conservation Commission via Zoom. I did get a little bit of pushback saying that, the Conservation Commission wasn't happy about the town not owning the parcels because their understanding is that the town would own the parcels and the Conservation Commission would monitor the easements. But it's not legally possible to have the town own the parcels and hold the easements. That's not the way conservation easements work. So currently, Riverside Landing will own the parcels and we'd have the easements. That's the way the state was looking at it, and that's what they were requesting from the wetlands permit, is my understanding. In mid-June, June 18th, I talked to Carol Stackpole, the attorney from Riverside Landing. She had sent me an email, wanted to move ahead with the conservation easements, and had a couple questions and things. And I said to her, there's these timelines that you've missed that were tied for getting all this stuff in place, that was tied into the very specific dates, but like in late March, that were in the wetlands permit. You've missed those deadlines, so they need to go back to Riverside Landing needs to go back to DES and to make some amendments to that permit. One reason why they've missed it is they're now still waiting for their alteration of terrain permit, and that did get delayed. Let's see, in end of May, DES requested that they get an extension to allow further review by Fish and Game. So they were requesting Riverside Landing to grant the state an extension until July 30th for their alteration of terrain permit. So, yeah, I talked in mid-June to the attorney for Riverside Landing, and then on June 24th, I actually met with the representative from Riverside Landing. We were talking about some other things, other properties in town, but I did review with him what I had talked to the attorney, Carol Stackpole, about. So I'm waiting to hear back from them, what they find out from DES and what their next steps are, but I've reviewed the conservation easements, I've provided comments, given those back to the attorney for Riverside Landing, and it's kind of the ball's in their court at this point. And, she had wanted to have a meeting and everything. I said, you got to work this out with DES, and then I'm happy to meet with you, but you got other things to talk about with DES and get solved first. So that's, again, my last conversation with Riverside Landing about it, I guess, was June 24th. So been working on it, but they've got things to do too. So
So a couple of questions. One is so if these easements are for wetlands mitigation, and the intent initially was to have a path, a bike path, a hiking path, whatever, along the river, is that a permitted use of this, or we don't know?
I don't want to speak for DES. They would have to review that if we ask for that in the easement. But again, from my conversation with Lori Summer, is most likely not, because they do not want to see any earth material moved, especially along the riverfront, because again, they're really looking at this as a pretty restrictive type of easement that does not allow, people could go in there and access, but they're not inviting people and bikes because they're concerned about erosion, damage to habitat, people wandering around. It's got to be this type of easement, because it's about protecting wetlands and habitat, is different type of conservation easement. You have conservation easements for forestry and protecting forest land, and when you can still cut timber and do a fair amount of activity, and you have others for recreation purposes. There's a whole lot of reasons, but this one's pretty strict because it's about mitigating the impacts of the wetlands on the Riverside site.
Well, that's unfortunate, because the initial intent to obtain these was to kind of complete a bike path or whatever.
I'm not saying no, but I think we have to determine that as a specific permitted use. So I had commented on that in the draft. Some of the comments I've sent to Lori Summer and to Carol Stackpole, the attorney, and the Conservation Commission. And again, I asked the Conservation Commission for some specific comments on the text of the easement, which lists permitted uses and non-permitted, reserved rights and that kind of thing. And I did not get that back. I was not here for the original discussions of it. I've looked through the record, but again, it's really a kind of the higher authority of the state's permit saying that this is what it is. So.
And in fact, the design that the developer McGinley was going to come forward with was like when the next site is actually developed, there was going to be some parking spots dedicated to a path that goes down to the river for a hiking trail.
And that's on the site plan. There is a designated parking area. I think we asked as one of the conditions of approval, I'd have to go back and look, but I think it was 3 parking spots in the eventual development of that filled area. And there is a designated easement area for a trail on the Riverside Landing site.
That trail is designated.
Just for
It's
that.
it doesn't. It will.
That's not included in this wetlands permit.
No,
This is separate from that. Yeah, it's in the site plan that the planning board reviewed on the Riverside Landing site. But there's really 3 parcels, and on either side of that, there are these other 2 parcels that will have the conservation easements on it. But there would be this area for a trail easement, and the attorney and the Riverside Landing need to also give me the trail easement document to review that too. So I have not seen that in terms of what the sort of permitted aspects of it. But I don't think it's for them to build it. We did not. That was not a proposal. It was just saying that the town would have the right to that and have access from the filled area down onto the lower path.
And actually, if the Conservation Commission were to, in fact, we're approaching apparently the water and sewer, because they, I guess, own that piece of property that, we'd have to start out from the community gardens. And then there's no property on the right. If you're looking at the development, that development's not bordered by the right and left. The conservation easement is on the left, and then across the river is the second one.
Yeah.
So you can have a trail right up through the development until you hit that conservation, easement on the left, the wetlands mitigation thing.
That's a Clay Brook
Yeah,
section.
yep. And actually, it is kind of disappointing for the original intent, was in honor of a gentleman that died, and, we were focusing on completing that trail out through, the bridge, covered bridge, but, so, it'd be nice to,
Is it going to be impossible now to complete that trail?
it would be apparently if it's not.
I can't speak for what DES will finally allow in it, so I don't, I've mentioned it, and I got some, Lori said that basically they were looking at, again, it kind of came back to like the purpose of this is wetlands mitigation was sort of this response I was getting. So, I'm waiting to hear back from what Riverside Landing was going to talk to DES partly about their timeline, and they had some other questions and concerns. So I said, you go figure that out, and I'm happy to talk with you whenever you're ready. And I haven't heard back since the end of June, so it's only a couple weeks. So
Is it possible that you're going to make this clear that this is an issue with DES? Could you request a hearing if necessary? We could have public input with DES. I've been to hearings before with DES.
they've issued the wetlands permit, so I don't know if that's
Well-
possible. We can ask, I think the next step is, again, Riverside Landing needs to talk to them and figure out what their timeline is and what this means for their wetlands permit, because there was part of the conditions of their wetlands permit were some time issues that they've missed because they were waiting for, the planning board did its job in terms of, we got the conditional approval by the end of March, and that would have offered them some opportunity because of that timeline. So, but I think they're waiting to really do much until the alteration of terrain permit comes in. So, and that should be by the end of the month, is what the state's extension request was so far that I've heard. So,
Well, I'd like to
We'll
be
keep you
involved at
posted.
some point, if we are able to, have a hearing with DES. That was a rather important outcome of the whole, conservation easement. But, did you?
Agreed.
Thank you very much for all your hard work.
keeping track of it.
It's kind of hard to walk in on this too. But
Been a good day going through some records of minutes and things. So I think a part of it is sort of a little bit of confusion about what conservation easements are and how they work and the purposes of them. They're very complex. But I won't get into giving you conservation easements 101 tonight.
that's too bad.
I've got some experience with that. So. All right. You need to stay up here with Scott.
Yep. And Scott Whedon, you want to?
Thank you.
Well, we got
June,
Scott.
I always appreciate how much detail you bring. You have dates, all these it's
Wait till
really,
you hear Scott.
No, the two of you are a great pair on this kind of stuff. I love it.
I actually had to update my report because I knew that Scott, we've been working together and he's been sharing information on the next topics here about building permits. I'm going to turn it over to you as much as anything. Okay, does that sound good? And just as a quick overview of this, obviously Scott started in his role as building inspector, code enforcement officer in beginning of May, and has been here 4 days a week pretty much since then, and working hard and getting us caught up in a lot of areas. So there's 3 bullets here to talk about building permits, code enforcement, some updates for you guys. And then what we really wanted to mention was just fees for land use applications. So this is all sort of kind of come together in a variety of ways. But Scott can kind of give you an outline about building permits and some recent code enforcement cases.
Sure. So with regards to building permits, I've really been kind of going back in time and looking at seeing what building permits weren't closed out in 2019, 2020, because it truly makes a difference on if that new construction, interior alterations, renovations have been closed out for assessing purposes. So I am now through 2019 into 2020. I think I have 3 or 4 more left to do. But more importantly, to give you kind of a status of where we are today with 2021, is that from January 1st through April 30th, 4-month period, there were 24 permits issued, resulting in $1,723.80 in revenue. May 1st to July 7th, just over 2 months, we've issued 38 permits 13 identified from myself being out in the field, you know, driving around, reviewing sites, reviewing permits from 2019, 2020, and we identified 13 in the field that contractors were building without permits. And in a couple of cases, there were some code issues that were being built upon with those building permits. Currently, there's 4 building permits that I have in hand that are under review right now from a code perspective. And out of those 38 permits, we've brought in $3,497.30 in revenue. So we have a total of 62 permits that were issued and 4 that are pending, for a total of $5,221.10. This is above where we were last year at this time, even though, you know, you hear that COVID has stopped some of the building, the price of lumber has stopped some of the building, but we still have building going on in Plymouth today, which is good to see from an economic development perspective of what we're seeing on the Main Street and working with different individuals on the Main Street that are putting in new businesses. So it has been busy, but with it being busy, it does take a considerable amount of time to review each one of those permit applications. Because when they come in, it's not just a rubber stamp of saying, okay, you can go build. It's really looking at the international building codes, the state of New Hampshire building codes, and making sure they're working within the statute, within the code, to construct, whether it's a renovation, a new construction, or an interior alteration. I will tell you today, just out in the field, I came by one today, and the people that were doing the remodeling said, well, we're just replacing what was there. Well, when we talk about what we're replacing, what was there, it becomes a little bit more detailed in what they were doing. And they were adding to the structure. They were replacing. They were putting on a new roof that didn't meet the existing roof that was there. So when you look at that and have those conversations, take out the permit application to them, get them to fill it out, go through it with them, look at the applicable codes that are relevant to this type of home, you know, there's a considerable amount of time that it takes to review each one of those. And you know, we've looked at the fees that we're currently charging. We're reviewing those fees with comparable towns around us, our existing surrounding towns of Ashland, Holderness, Rumney. Rumney doesn't have any building permits or zoning. Thornton and Campton. So kind of make some comparisons about how much time we're putting into a building permit application and getting that application issued in a timely manner to facilitate the building that needs to occur in the town of Plymouth. So kind of an update on the building permits. I don't know, June, if there's anything you want to add to that?
Nope. You brought up the fees. I guess we can just jump in. Why don't we talk about that since we're on the topic rather than the code enforcement update. So Jules and Scott and I and Carol, also from the assessing office, have been kind of spending some time looking at our application forms for the building permits, as well as planning board, subdivision, site plan review, and zoning board. Those are the main ones we work with. We've also discovered a bunch of application forms for other things that we're trying to sort out. And looking at what's been charged, I have no idea when the last time the fees were really looked at. But one of the things we've discovered is we have a kind of a working spreadsheet where we've been trying to think through like how much time, you know, there's no typical application, there's no normal one. So it's hard to know, but in general, kind of the minimum amount of time on a building permit for Scott to get the form, review it, you know, maybe make a phone call, go out and do an inspection, and then actually just issue the paperwork to do the permit, to do the filing. Same thing on the planning board side. There's a lot of steps with public notices, abutter notices, you know, going to the meeting, having the planning board review things, writing staff reports, and then trying to file everything post-meeting. We have a lot to do, especially when we get into more site plan with new construction. Plan review, working with our town engineer, construction inspection. There's a lot of sort of administrative work to keep that going. So, we're kind of adding up the number of hours we spend typically on trying to estimate that is, put a dollar value to that, and trying to look at assessing some new fees. So currently, our regulations state that the select board sets the fees. I'm not sure with the planning board and zoning board. I think those boards can do that on their own, but in our regulations, it does give that authority to the select board. So while we've been working on this for about a month or so, we haven't come up with the actual numbers yet, but we wanted tonight to kind of give you a I don't know, a little overview of where we're headed, and probably either the next meeting or that next couple meetings, we'll come back with the actual formal proposal of here's what the fee is, here's what we want to raise it to. It is definitely an increase. We're trying to not make it, too much, respecting, kind of thinking through what would a 2,000 square foot house cost? What is some of the similar applications that we've seen for subdivisions and site plans? What would those cost? What are other towns in New Hampshire in our rate? But, we have the state laws allow us to charge fees to kind of recoup at least our costs to a certain degree but it's too hard to do it by billable hours, Because you also have to get the money up front from applicants, so you make an estimate. So we'll be back with more of the details about where we're headed in the fee structure, okay? Give you some time to think about it. But I think it's been a long time since the town's looked at this, and, there's a cost to having the amount of hours we spend on things, looking at all that. Questions about that?
I have just one comment. We want to be careful not to disincent people from making these alterations, because ultimately they increase the tax base, which is a long-term return versus a short-term return in fees.
That's where we've definitely talked about that, and that I know historically has always been sort of the approach, but we again are doing a very conservative estimate of the amount of time, and when you put a dollar value on our time, it's up to the town to decide if you want to try to recoup that, because otherwise the taxpayers are paying town time for multiple hours to work on this stuff, and that can also be passed on to the people. It's kind of like pass it on to some of the users. We're never going to recoup all of our time. We're trying to work towards that a little bit better. Just updating it as much as anything, and keeping it even in line with some of the other surrounding communities and things like, surrounding is hard to say, communities with similar amount of activity, that kind of thing. So.
I think it's trying to keep it fair and equitable for the property owners, for the builders. But for example, right now, there's a $25 minimum permit fee. So if someone is building an accessory structure that's over 120 square feet, might be a deck, might be a shed, might be some other type of accessory structure that they're putting up, they pay a $25 fee. So with that $25, it takes time to review, are they adding electrical to it? Are they adding plumbing to it? Are they meeting the building codes for the state, for the international code that the state complies with? The other piece is making sure they're meeting the setbacks, they're building within the regulations of the zoning regulations that we have in place. And then there's always a site visit to make sure that the site is prepared properly, whether they're pouring footings, a slab, that all has to be checked out. And then you've got a framing inspection, then you've got a plumbing inspection, then you've got an electrical inspection. They all don't come at the same time. So when you think about a $25 minimum fee, and I might make 5 trips to that location, plus reviewing the application, does $25 even come close to covering 1 hour of time that's associated with that? But I think it is being fair and equitable to the property owners, to the builders, to make sure that we're doing it effectively and efficiently. Because at the end of the day, if I issue that permit and I haven't dotted the i's and crossed the t's and something happens, and I've issued a certificate of occupancy for that structure, I want to make sure that the town has been transparent, has been fair to the property owner, and that the building is built within the code and compliance. And there's an amount of a responsibility there and time that takes to have that done properly. So I think, looking at it just to make sure that we're on the right track, we're doing the right things, not that we're charging too much or we're charging too little, but what's fair and equitable to the property owners in Plymouth.
It'll be interesting to see what you come back with.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
A couple of code enforcement updates if you would like. I'll give you the first one on 30 High Street. And on July 1st, we were notified by the town attorneys that the court did grant our motion to raise and remove the structure at 30 High Street based on the health and safety aspects of the condition of that building. With regards to July 1st date, Mr. Page has 10 days to file a motion for reconsideration for the court. As of today, that has not been done, and we are in the 12th day of the month. The town could proceed to raise and remove the building, fill the foundation. What we would actually do is remove the building, collapse the foundation, fill it, compact it, loam it to grade. And that could be done within 20 days of the court granting the motion for the town of Plymouth, which would take us to July 21st. But there's a caveat to that as well, because Mr. Page can also file with the Supreme Court to reconsider the motion of the town of Plymouth in the motion that was granted with Plymouth District Court. So when we pick a date and the date is said and done, after August 4th, if nothing has been filed by Mr. Page in the district court and in the Supreme Court level, we would have the permission to then raise and remove that building. So currently, I have 4 contractors that have been out to the site, reviewed the site, and I have 1 quote back for removal of the building, and I'm waiting for the 3 others. So we've contacted Always Demolition, which were the company that removed the Bagley House up here on Highland Street. Contacted Spears Demolition out of Meredith. I've contacted Don LaTulip Excavating, because he does do some of this type of work. And another company out of Dover that does a lot of demolition, municipal demolition, with regards to this type of situation that we have on High Street. So I have sought out companies to give us quotes, and once we get to August 4th, we can then reconvene and talk about it a little bit more. I've asked each of the contractors to assure that they could have it done by the end of August, and all of them said they would make time in their schedules to have it completed. And I think that's fair to the residents in that neighborhood. It is an eyesore, and there's people calling on it each and every day. And I know there are individuals that would like to purchase that piece of property, but the unfortunate part is Mr. Page is not returning any calls to them. So that's the situation we're in right now with 30 High Street.
I thought Mr. Page was trying to sell the property. Okay.
He has not returned any calls to the real estate agents, nor has he returned calls to 2 members or 2 residents of that neighborhood that would like to purchase the property.
Have you talked with him?
He will not return our calls. There has been no contact made with him since
What
early.
about certified mail? and
We have
process?
been, he hasn't taken his certified mail. We've had to have any deliveries done by the Belknap County Sheriff's Office in hand service.
This is kind of granular, but you mentioned that they're just going to collapse the walls. Isn't it kind of prohibitive for future development to have to deal with all that?
It's what DES requires. Is the
Rather
foundation
removing?
has to be collapsed in order to, because you can't guarantee the integrity of that foundation after the fire that occurred there. And you wouldn't want somebody else using that foundation, that footprint, in the event that the foundation didn't have the integrity of what it needed to be built upon.
I remember it's like, was it Jeremiah's house out on Highland Street? That was completely removed, including the foundation. But, and then it was filled in and became town property. unfortunately.
We can do one of 2 things. The least expensive route is to collapse the foundation and fill it, or we can have the foundation removed, which adds additional costs that the town would be fronting.
Yeah.
I know another local company that does demolition. Have you tried Witcher from Warren?
I have not, Neil.
He does more than the rubbish business.
He-
Okay, so that same Witcher that
Yeah.
has the
Yeah,
garbage disposal business?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, I've seen him do demolition jobs.
okay. I will reach out. So that's an update on 30 High Street. The other one I have is the Kirk's property out on Tenny Mountain Highway. I will say that I've had 2 meetings with George with regards to the site plan review and coming into compliance with a review that was done back in November of 2015 and approved. In our 2 meetings, he has taken action in removing some vehicles from the property. He has reduced the number of vehicles that are in the rear of the property, which there's a maximum of 34 spots out there. I think now there's 24 vehicles at our last conversation that's in the back. He has started removing all the scrap metal from beside the buildings. He has purchased 2 tractor trailers and hauled out, I believe it's 28 tons of scrap metal last week. He has reopened the roadway around the building so that emergency vehicles could have access around the facility. And that means that he had contracted with Michael Tulip to bring in fill and flatten out the road and widen the road so vehicles could get in there and turn around. Again, we continue to discuss the different things that are going on in that property, and I think we've made some headway on that. Then there's much more to be done. But I think taking the town attorney's advice and working with the property owner to get where we need to be with regards to the site plan review that was done in November of 2015, and taking baby steps to get there, there may become a time where he can't do anymore and we have to take that next step. But on August 2nd, I'll be meeting with him again. And part of what he had to do through the month of July is to actually inventory the vehicles on that lot and be able to tell me and provide supporting documentation of what vehicles are considered abandoned. So if he goes out and he tows a vehicle in and the owner of that vehicle never comes in for the vehicle, whether it's whatever the circumstances may be, he has to file with the state of New Hampshire to receive salvage in a title so he can salvage that vehicle. That process can take 60 to 90 days from the time that the paperwork is submitted, which I understand, but I want to see the supporting documentation with each one of those vehicles that is considered to be an abandoned vehicle. Then we need to find out, and he's going to count the vehicles that actually belong to Kirk's Automotive, not those that are there on a daily basis being serviced or worked on, but the vehicles that are in that lot that are unregistered that belong to Kirk's Automotive. So we have some benchmarks that we set in June. He completed those benchmarks. We have benchmarks that are set for the month of July. On August 2nd, I will meet with him again and see where he is on those benchmarks. And if those have all been completed, we'll move on to the next phase, which is setbacks and property lines. And this is the business on Tenny Mountain Highway. We haven't addressed the business on Daniel Webster Highway on Route 3 South with regards to the vehicles that are parked down there on a piece of property, but that's the next piece that we'll be addressing. So that's an update of where we are now with that piece of property, and happy to take any questions that you may have.
So this, Kirk does realize that he's not being persecuted. It's just simply to, make sure that we're satisfied that he's following the site plan review, and that was done in 2015.
Yeah, like I said, I've met with him twice. He understands that these are all stipulations that were included in the site plan review back in November of 2015. It's nothing new that's being put upon him. It's something that's been in place since November of 2015. It's just that it, from a town perspective, I guess it fell on the wayside a little bit and hadn't been, kept up upon. So I think, it's fair to give him an opportunity to bring himself into compliance. And at the time that he can't, then we have to maybe take the next step.
How many hours of time have you spent? No, only kidding.
Well, I think it sounds like a very reasonable method to follow.
And, you know, I think George and I, on a handshake, have agreed that as long as you come into compliance as we move along, that's how we'll continue to get you to where you need to be. In the event that you can't do it any further, then other action may have to be taken. And he understands that.
Good.
So I think those were the two updates with regards to code enforcement. I don't think there's anything else at this point.
Thank you very much, Scott and
Okay.
Jim.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, man. So we're,
So Lisa didn't make it, huh?
well, good thing we start at 5 now, you know?
Do we have John?
Have what?
Is
Oh, John's pulled his item.
John has decided not to be on the agenda tonight. And he's asked for that to be scheduled for the next meeting.
Okay. Any committee reports?
From the Budget Committee, we met on 6:30 and discussed the new forms and the process that we're going to be going over with the individual department managers coming up. We have another meeting scheduled for Wednesday, day after tomorrow. So, stuff is happening.
Plymouth Village Water and Sewer, I've neglected to check out that meeting, so, sorry. You can fire me from that if you'd like.
Perlac.
Yeah, we got Perlac. Perlac's kicking. We got, actually, it's, it was a great meeting, this last month, now that I do have something to say, but, and we held it here because, the library's not open yet for general business, but, at least evening business. We can't book rooms yet. And, I expected 5 people to show up and everyone else to zoom in, and there were 13 people that showed up.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
yeah, it was kind of refreshing, and I was very, very pleased to see that much interest, so. Any comments from Perlac you want to give, Neil?
Well,
or-
we had Michelle Tremblay online from the, she's the president of New Hampshire Rivers Council, and she explained a watershed steward program and water quality report card and marketing, social marketing, and she has a lot of information and guidance for us. And we discussed a campground up in Thornton that apparently doesn't have any permits, and they're doing an expansion on the river. And I don't know what the town of Thornton did. They were going to have a meeting the next evening. I don't know how that turned out.
I saw the minutes, or at least, they're going to wait for all the permit issues to be resolved before they go further.
They go forward with a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy, we did quite a lot. We discussed a permit for electric transmission rebuilding by Eversource in Franklin. And Glove Hollow Tree Farm is, I think we had a review of, they're gonna do that riverbank stabilization. And have they started that yet?
No.
No?
I just got a copy of the letter of something like 40 issues, not issues, but items that DES wants them to comply with, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll have.
That's a list.
Yeah. But they'll have the permission to go ahead.
Yeah. Then John Martin on River Road in Bridgewater, I believe he's in Bridgewater.
Yeah.
the town line jumps around on River Road. But he wants to do some tree harvesting along the river. And
42 acres of invasives.
it's a strip
Yeah.
along the riverbank.
42 acres though. And he's gonna
Yeah,
apply rodeo.
he's going to spray it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess he has an application. Has it been approved yet, or
I don't think so.
no? It's still in the works. And then Max talked about doing some more water testing on Blair Bridge
Tomorrow morning, by the way.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Oh,
8
great.
o'clock, don't see it.
So, yeah, and also we're going to have a meeting on July 24th at Marty Reese's to honor the late Michael O'Donnell, who was a member of our committee and passed away. And I don't think Dave Jeffers, he wasn't at the meeting,
He'll be at our next one.
but he's working on funding. That's what I had for notes.
Pretty good. It's more than I take. Any others?
We had the night off.
And you got the next night off too.
Do. You can come see the show.
I watch it online.
You gotta donate, that's really all that matters.
Any others? Okay.
One more item.
Oh, yeah. Yep, next week. Oh, man. Can we postpone that one? Yeah, so
You tell me.
did everyone take a look at this? What's on the boss plate? I'm thinking we'll put it off till next meeting, okay?
Do you have you have a copy of this from the last meeting? I can give you another one if you need it.
Well, I didn't bring my copy with me, but
Okay. But you're going to postpone it,
I
Bill?
think, could we postpone?
that's fine.
And just keep in mind too, this is a concoction of like several different boards. In fact, I'm sure I've got like 4 or 5
I need a copy.
items here.
I gave her two.
Oh, you did? Oh, I didn't even notice.
And most of it doesn't require, we can probably like knock out a bunch, but the point too is to come with items that, like, gee, I think the board should meet at 5 o'clock, and so why are we doing like a work session? So stuff like that, we can make proposed changes that we can actually, kind of like consider and go forward with. A lot of these things we haven't done anything with, but they've been kicked down the different boards, so. But it's probably would require, maybe like at least a half-hour discussion, and I prefer to kind of keep it off to the next one. So, any public comments? See?
Get them all out of the building.
Not here.
Ghost.
Is there anyone on Zoom too, by the way, or? No. Oh, hey.
Wow. Summertime.
Well, in that case, we did a motion to go into non-public.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public for the stated reasons, reputation, real estate, or
We do personnel and real estate. Well, the two
We don't
that-
need reputation. We're going to hold off on one of the non-public items,
Oh, okay.
please. I'm sorry.
All right. Did you do the 91A:3, Roman numeral 2?
Oh, no, I didn't. In accordance to RSA 91-A:3, number 2, A through E.
A and D.
A and D, sorry.
Beautiful. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Oh, Mary Ann won, I think, by a nose. So, Zach, you vote.
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Neil?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
We're in non-public. Ayes have it.
Now we can make the motion.
Now you go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, move the second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.